Okay, we are recording for the record, everyone, so I'll open the meeting at 7:15 now that we have achieved a quorum of at least 4 voting board members. The first item on our agenda is to approve the minutes of the October 13th, 2020 board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve.
Okay, there's a motion from Lynn.
Second, I
There's
second.
a second from Bill. Any discussion of those minutes? All right, all in favor of approving? Okay, that is 400, Amy. Okay, next is a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's board meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I move.
Okay, Bill moves to approve. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a second from Lynn. Is there a discussion about tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving tonight's agenda? 1, 2, 3, 400, Amy. Okay, we're going to move on to resident remarks. Any resident wishing to make remarks has 3 minutes. Are there any residents out there who wish to make remarks? If you do, use the hand raising feature in Zoom or turn on your video and just wave your hand at me. Going once, going twice. I like this new thing I do where I'm the resident remark auctioneer. I don't know how else to time myself other than to do that. All right, absent resident remarks, we will move right into old business. So I put the school system capital improvement plan and deferred maintenance on Oakland Mills High on old business, hoping that I would have a little more information. As you know, last time the tab on Oakland Mills High is over $110 million. It appears to be the highest tab in the school system, according to that spreadsheet a Board of Education member put out. I did reach out to her to, figure out more about the source of her information and what it meant. She's looking into it, hasn't gotten back to me. I did meet with the principal of Oakland Mills High, and obviously, he confirmed that the building needs work, but he's not privy to all the details and the dollar amounts. He did confirm that the original building was not renovated in the late 90s, early 2000s when they put on the additions. So they put on the additions, knocked the walls through, left the rest of the building as it was, and the core systems are original to 1973, which is why it still needs a full systemic renovation. So I was able to confirm that, and I will continue working on the rest. We had a long discussion about that at the education committee. Members of the committee asked what we can do as a community, and I said, well, I think ultimately we need to do what we did with Talbot Springs. We don't want to say, thank you so much, you gave us Talbot Springs, we'll be quiet now. No, you've neglected all of our facilities so long. We keep pushing at it, and we show up at the budget hearings and everything else and speak our piece about why we need equitable treatment of our high school as well as our middle school. But I think our high school is the biggest concern right now, since it's not even in the plan. So I will bring this back again because as I mentioned at the last meeting, at some point we're going to have to start talking about various types of budget testimony, but specifically there's going to be an opportunity to give testimony on the capital budget. I'm assuming the county executive in some virtual fashion will stick to the regular schedule, which usually means there will be an opportunity to do that sometime in December, if he sticks to that schedule. So I'll make sure we keep that on the radar, and anything else that we should be talking about as we move closer toward December and kind of the opening of the next budget season. Any questions on that? All right, then I will send it over to Paul for an update on the Newtown visioning.
Well, I put it on the board the last time so that we could address this whenever there's a decision on Newtown visioning by the CA board as to what their position is going to be. Right now, we still have a number of meetings that'll be going on through early December. And, I'll just keep the board apprised as there seem, if there's any conclusions that are being reached. Right as of now, I haven't seen any conclusions reached. There's still a lot of discussion going on. I am continuing to be concerned about where the CA board may go on this affordable housing. We'll just have to see. So that's basically all I can say at this point.
Okay. While we're, since this is a very related subject, while we're in this item, Paul, did you want us to quickly inform the board about the plans for the December, I want to say it's the December 8th board meeting, the one board meeting we'll likely have in December, whatever that second Tuesday is.
Yeah, that's basically getting information from our residents as to what they would like to see in the updated general plan, both for Columbia and Howard County, but more particularly for Columbia. I've got a notice that I drafted that John has seen, and basically we would devote that meeting to that particular subject, getting views from our residents. I'm interested in getting that because we've got a block of 10,000 residents, and I got to think that what people state through us will bear some weight in this update to the general plan. So this is basically a notice to the rest of the board that that's what's going to be happening. Any testimony would be limited to 3 minutes. And as John reminded me, there may be other business that we may need to do at that meeting.
Yeah, so what we'll try to do, Paula and I have been working on this with Sandy. What we'll try to do is devote most of that December meeting to this, but since that meeting is likely the only meeting we'll have in December, you know, we never know what else might come up. So as you're thinking about the next 3 meetings and business you might want to get on the agenda, you know, to the extent possible, if we can load that into the 2 November meetings to give as much time in December to this topic, you know, in case we get a healthy turnout and we want to give everyone their 3 minutes, that would be the preferred route. But, you know, obviously, if something comes up, if we just have to cover it in December, we'll find the time. All right. Any questions on that or any questions for Paul on the Newtown visioning? All right. Wow, we're moving right through this. Okay, so next up, this was something I brought as new business last time because we learned about it just before the last meeting. Fire and Rescue are updating their strategy, and a call went out for representatives from each of the village boards or the villages to attend what sounds like will be virtual focus groups that could start, it looks like as soon as the first week of November. So, you know, we had some discussion about whether a member of the board had time to do it. We were all pretty busy. So the names of a few residents came up. I reached out to a couple. I heard back from one. Bill reached out to one. So, you know, then we had the happy problem of having more people than we thought we had slots. So I asked Sandy to reach out to Fire and Rescue to see whether we could send 2. And they said, send 2, the more the merrier, have them both sign up. So the 2 people who responded and are interested in representing Oakland Mills are Carol Brain, who I think we're familiar with from such hits as Stevens Forest Traffic Circle and Farewell Speed Bumps. And actually a gentleman I don't know so well who Bill contacted, Alex, is it pronounced Patico?
Alex Patico.
Patico, okay.
How's that spelled?
It is Carol Brain is no E on the
Yeah, I
end
know
of
that.
Carol and Brain, okay. And Alex, Patico.
Okay.
So those are the 2 folks who expressed interest, and you know we determined that we would have to make the nomination and confirm them tonight, since you know these focus groups could likely start before we next meet as a board. So is there any discussion about either of those, or does anyone want to make a motion to approve them as submitted?
I move that we approve them as submitted.
I second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right. All in favor? All right, very good. Okay, when Sandy is back in the office tomorrow, Bill, well, she has Carol's contact information. I don't know whether she has Alex's, but I'll make sure she reaches out to both of them and makes the connection so that they can register properly for the focus groups. All right. Oh, we're cruising right through old business. Sandy, unfortunately, couldn't be here. She had a personal situation. I can give the update on the traffic study for Lightning View and Mellenbrook. Basically, the county came back once again and said, we're not doing these during COVID because the volumes just aren't normal. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to do these when the volumes aren't normal. Now, I I understand that if you're looking at traffic volume, what we were interested in was also speed. And the hypothesis was that speed is up because school is out and there are fewer cars on the road, so there are more opportunities to speed. So the idea I had that I was going to, say after Sandy gave her report was before we basically, define insanity and go back and ask for the same thing again, I did notice last week, I believe, that one of the speed camera vans was parked across the street from Stevens Forest Elementary, and it was active because it flashed someone speeding by. Now, I don't know whether they're giving citations, but it definitely seemed active. They're only supposed to operate when I think between up until 8 or something when school is in session. So maybe since school is technically in session, even though the buildings aren't in use, they can still do that. So if we wanted to, I was going to ask Sandy to first contact the police department to ask whether the cameras are in fact in use, and if so, when the next cycle is coming up for Thunder Hill, because with the school there, that is a traffic, it is an approved traffic camera zone. So we might be able to do the end around on the county studying speed by using the results from the traffic camera the next time it's there. So I don't think this is anything we need to vote on or anything. If if the consensus is that this could be an alternative instead of going back to the county and asking for the same thing, the third meeting in a row, then Sandy and I can work on that. Or I'm also happy to go back and make that point again about how volume isn't what's important to us right now. Speed is, but I think the speed camera thing might work.
Well, your workaround is worth a try.
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Ginny?
Yeah, Jonathan, when will the courthouse open? Does anybody know? I'm trying to remember the date.
Oh gosh, I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, so I was trying to figure out if it's in the next 6 months or a year, because that would be a really good time to do a traffic study.
Yeah, well, we did. So the original intent was that there would be another one then, and we wanted to do one now-ish for a baseline. That would be for volume. But for speed, we especially wanted to do one now because, like I said, the thought was that the speeds are up because of schools not using the buildings and because of fewer cars on the road. So there's more opportunity to speed.
I agree. I was just wondering if we could get the county to commit to that one as well. Even though
Yeah, I think we should continue to press for that. Yes.
Get them to commit now to that as well. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Lynn?
I just wanted to say my understanding is that the courthouse won't be open for another couple of years. So I think what we do now, we don't want to tie it to the courthouse opening, although I agree that we need to do another one when it does open.
Yeah. Okay.
I was trying to search really quick for what the plan is, and you didn't talk long enough.
It's actually what should be interesting as to not just a courthouse opening, but you see that old house that was on 108 that got renovated, and boy, a lot more expansion there, going to have more traffic, etc. So what else is going to be occurring around the courthouse should be very interesting.
Well, even a little further up 108 where Grandfather's Garden is being developed with housing. So that's going to dump more traffic into 108 there. And 108 is already a mess.
Okay, here we go. So I don't know whether, the schedule has slipped or anything, but when they broke ground, they said the timeline was to be completed by July 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're pretty close. So maybe maybe Lynn, you were thinking the entire duration of the
Yeah,
project, not how much longer from now.
right.
You take a look, we're up there every once in a while, and boy, they are moving fast.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay.
it's a private part, a public partnership, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
They account for, well, anyway, how quickly it's moving.
Are you saying government doesn't move quickly?
No, no, I'm
Oh,
thinking there are rental offices in the building that the lawyers want.
okay.
And the developers want the profit, not that. I didn't mean it that way.
They probably have to hit certain completion points in order to get their draws.
Funny, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it really is moving when you go up there and look at it.
Hmm.
As opposed to the purple line.
Yes. Which may never be moving at the rate things are going. Um, all right. Board chair report. So actually, I already covered the school thing because I had that on as business. Already covered the plans for that meeting in December through Paul's report. Um, since Sandy's not here, one thing I'll share is that Columbia Community Care, they're the group that was organized by the teacher at Wild Lake High School to provide food and other supplies to people in need. They operate a lot outside of our middle school here in Oakland Mills. So they serve do a lot of service here and in the Wild Lake and Harper's Choice communities. With the weather turning and everything, they sent something into Sandy inquiring about whether we could do anything to help them and give them some shelter when the weather turns bad. So it's a little bit difficult with us because when you talk about a facility at the size of the other barn, you have to staff it, and of course we have a lot of our staff either cut back or laid off right now, and the logistics of that get complicated. So I said to Sandy, it doesn't do much to give cover to the people waiting in line, but for at least the volunteers who are there for several hours, could we use that back room closest to the pool of the Stevens Forest Neighborhood Center, because there are two doors. You can come in one side, you can go out the other, so you can distance people out, and then you can have the volunteers and the supplies and food and everything, out of the weather. And that could at least give them something, for example, on a Saturday, when right now no one is using that room and no one is using that building. So she did go back to them, and she suggested that that's something we could look at, and invited them to come out and take a look at it. And if they did respond to her, she got an update today. I wouldn't know it yet because she had to take a personal day. But just giving an update there, since Sandy's not here, in case we hear more about that later. They're really really a great service and well run. So I'd love to be able to do something for them if we can. It's just a little bit complicated. They exist because of COVID, and then COVID is also presenting the complication in trying to find a roof to put over their heads as the weather turns colder. So we'll look into that a little bit more.
Jonathan, can I
Yes.
just, in that same vein, this is getting close to the time where we usually take letters or asks for donations to different organizations. And I can anticipate that with the financial situation being at Oakland Mills the way it is, that it's not going to be that way again this year. But I did get someone asking me about, would we be able to give some support, financial support to grassroots? And I didn't know what to say about what the process for that would be.
I did too, and I responded. I got something from grassroots, and I responded based on the budget we voted and the process we agreed to. So I know our budget this year doesn't align with our regular process, but if you recall, and I checked in with Sandy on this to make sure I had it right. If you recall, when Sandy presented the proposed budget, she talked about the donations. And what she did was she only put $1,500 in the donations bucket, and she actually put the expenditures out in the last couple of quarters of the fiscal year, so we could see where things were and make sure that we didn't need that money to survive, before we
Right.
we gave it out to help other organizations survive. And actually the intent, if you go back and listen to how she presented it, was that if we're able to do even a minimum, the reason it was $15 was to try to give like $500 to each, to one of the organizations at each of the schools to help them keep going.
Mhm.
So right now, I have some requests coming in, and we're basically setting them aside till we see what the financial situation is, because our budget wouldn't let us honor the request right now anyway, the way we constructed it. So if anyone else gets any of those, if you want to refer them to me, I'm happy to be the bearer of bad news, or at least the deferrer of bad news. But I did get something similar from Grassroots. I did respond to them and explain what's going on. Sandy at Columbia Community Care similarly asked, and Sandy said we're not in a position to do anything financially now, but we may be in a position to put that roof over your heads at least part of the time. So that's where that conversation came from. And for anyone else who sends anything in, I think the response would be the same right now. And who knows? I mean, maybe we'll end up in a better place than we were fearing, and things will look better as we get toward the end of that third quarter into that fourth quarter. But I think for right now, we just have to explain to people what's happening and defer the donations conversation until we're sure we're staying afloat and we can continue to pay the people who are still working for us to keep working for us.
So we have kind of a form letter that we're sending out acknowledging their request and then saying, get back to us in X month or whatever.
No, there's no form letter. I can share with you what I sent to Grassroots. I didn't realize they had reached out to others, so that was the only one I got. And I shared that with Sandy so that she could use that should others come in. I didn't realize that other organizations, or maybe the same organizations, were reaching out to other members of the board. So I'll circulate the language I used in that email, and we can basically use that as the basis for anything else.
Good.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I think that, I think that covers the chair report. I'll send it over to Ginny.
Thanks, Jonathan. Main thing is we're starting to, or we're hoping to get feedback on the capital budget. That'll be Thursday night. You can get all the information online, and it'll be strictly really on the capital budget, which we received last week. And as I say, is available and is very small amount of money, 8 million, and only really health and safety issues. So if you guys have a chance to look that over and you have any comments, excuse me, basically the way I'm looking at it is, I'll just give you two examples. Lake Elkhorn and Wild Lake. I am really looking at the capital budget and the operating budget, and I did this in the past, but never got the votes for this. But to look at really where the county perhaps should be taking a role, a financial role, or helping us secure the money from perhaps the state open space program, or get funding from the state, but not have all of the funding for some of the open space maintenance and services, especially with our lakes and our ponds, on the CA lien payers. So that's just two examples, is like the dam improvements at Lake Elkhorn and the Wild Lake Dam improvements are just two. And we're talking about 200,000 for Wild Lake and 200,000 for Lake Elkhorn. And then there are other projects in here. If you look at them, let me know if you have any questions, and then feel free, anybody can, to go online, look at it, and do resident speak out on Thursday, or just send the board an email with your position on any of these things or questions that you might have. So I guess that's it. We'll be getting the operating budget more in January. And basically, here's what I want to stress on that, because I know we had a little bit of a difficult meeting last, excuse me, last week, where Milton wanted to present to the board in a closed meeting his idea and the staff's idea. He had met with senior staff and their idea of how we can approach the budget and perhaps reinvent CA, the Columbia Association. 5 of us voted to keep to have the meeting open, that we did not feel that it should be a closed meeting. In fact, there was some attempt to say it's just personnel. And my point is, whatever you're discussing, once the board starts reacting, and they'd be reacting in terms of, well, we support that, we don't support that, that's a budget item. It clearly should be done in an open public session. So he will be presenting their ideas, and we'll get that on January 8th. And the final vote will be January 25th, unless for some reason that date is postponed, and the budget would be effective, as you know, May 1st, 2021 for the FY 2022 budget. So there'll be plenty of, the message really is there's be plenty of opportunity for people to look at both the capital budget and the operating budget, to have a say, and to, tell us what they think. I see this as an approach that includes, one, the CA staff, and I respect them and I respect their professional opinion, but they have an obligation to give us a budget that they really feel is the way we should be functioning. We should not be interfering with that at this point. This is their professional opinion. Then it goes public, and the public will have plenty of opportunity over a couple of months to say what they think and what their suggestions are, what their support is. We're already getting emails galore because somebody at some particular facility is telling everybody to write to us to support that particular facility. So that's going on right now, and I can understand that. There's a fear that X is going to close or Y is going to close or something like that. So the staff that works there, or personal trainers or people that use it, just feel they should be telling us, no, don't touch that. So we're getting a lot of that on all different things. But that will go on, and people can come to the board meetings and tell us, et cetera. Then that's the second phase in my mind anyway. The third phase, then the board has to make a decision based on all the input they're getting from the professional staff, from the residents and other stakeholders, other members of the organization, and then make a decision as to what is in the best interest of CA for FY22. And that's just for the FY22 budget. And then, of course, the FY23 budget will be coming soon after that, and we'll see what that looks like. But as to whether finances are going to get much better, I don't know. I do see an increase at the Supreme Court, where I go every day. Suddenly there seems to be a lot more people there. And you can get all this data online. You can get by individual clubs. Some of us really insisted upon that we wanted the breakdown for this budget to include like Columbia Gym, the Haven, the sports park, name it, the facility, how many members are attending, what it costs, what revenue they're bringing in, all the data, so that anybody can see that and really get a picture of what's happening at that facility, which I think is a much better improved budget process. It's much more open and transparent, which I know a lot of people on the line here have been fighting for, and so have I. And I think we're starting to achieve that. So, sorry, I saw Lynn's hand was up.
Yeah, I was stuck on the remark that you made talking about Milton coming and suggesting something about beginning a process for reinventing what CA will be. Is that, do you guess, is going to turn into, or do you know, kind of another iteration of the plan that he proposed a couple of years ago?
A couple
of years ago.
Talk to me or trees?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Lynn.
Wow. Yeah, a couple of years ago, there was a big meeting in Milton and Sherry Fanaroff.
No, this is budget related.
Okay, this is
Well, no,
not-
actually, I can't answer that question because we, 4 people wanted to go into that meeting, 5 of us opposed it, and 1 was absent. So the meeting didn't take place.
Right.
We were told that we would be told that in the meeting, and I'm dying to hear too, and I wanted to hear it, but there's this thin line that you can't cross where if we heard it, you would have had board members reacting. And my opinion, as soon as they started reacting, and I'm not going to make up things because then I'll be quoted saying, well, Ginny's saying we don't need this facility, et cetera. But if he had suggested we close X, and the board right away said, yeah, that's a good idea, or no, you can't do that. You are making a budget decision, and I feel strongly you have no business doing that based on your opinion. I'm talking about us, not you, Lynn.
Right.
Our opinion without hearing from the public.
Yeah, I agree. That's great.
And he was asking for that, and I said, that is where you cross the line, and we can't do it, guys. So it was a 5-4 vote to keep the meeting open, and he just said, well, then, you know, he felt what he was saying is budgets have impact on personnel, and he wanted to do that in a closed meeting so that staff, if you had said this will no longer be funded, people would be upset. Well, I said, you know, in county government, when we did budgets, and in the state, and a lot of nonprofits, we do budgets. You do eliminate sometimes departments, you do eliminate programs, you add programs, and it's done in an open public process. And I saw that CA was no difference. Yes, you never want to see. I mean, I am very upset now about some of our staff that are still unemployed, frankly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Paul and then me, based on the hands I see.
Jenny, I went to your first meeting on the budget. I listened until the bitter end, which I believe was about 3 hours. I guess I'm a glutton for punishment. I understood at the last meeting that this upcoming meeting would do basically what we used to call in the Fed zero-based budgeting. This was as a result of Dick Bolton's comments. What can we afford as a base budget for 40 million, which is what we all get from the assessments? What are our fixed costs? And what's the delta that's left after our fixed costs? If we've got to go to that type of a budget. Is that going to be discussed this coming Thursday? Because I thought that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, well, actually, it's something I've been pushing too. I call it zero-based budgeting, but and that there are no sacred cows. And I know there are people that don't want to hear that because they have a sacred cow that they absolutely feel should be funding regardless. But the way I look at it, and I had a long meeting with our CFO about a month ago to say, this is how you have to present the budget. You have to say, and let me just clarify this a little bit. You have to say, this is our revenue for FY22. And the revenue comes from mainly 2 sources. One is the lien, the annual charge. Explain exactly how much that is, okay? So I'll make up some figures. Do not hold me to these, but say it's the total budget coming in, revenue coming in will be 56 million, okay? Revenue from the lien is whatever. And then the other source will be, and by the way, that's in jeopardy to a certain extent because there are people that are unemployed, there are people that can't afford to pay their lien. It's all sorts of things happening. Businesses that are appealing their tax assessment because they've been closed a lot and they feel the bill they got is unfair. And of course, the CA bill is based on the assessment. So that is in jeopardy. So, but the point is you'll get a figure there. The other one you'll get is the membership fees, how much we're making and from the clubs, facilities, et cetera, both membership and also personal training, classes, etc. And the other one that's in this second category that used to be a profit is before and after school. But we know that when the county accepted the CARES money and put it towards their parks and recreation school care, they reduced the cost. So we had to reduce ours by 30 cents, and which means we are no longer making money on those programs. Plus the fact that not everybody's sending their kids back to our full daycare, which is what we're offering. So it's not the revenue producer that it was before. We don't know what's going to happen there, but we'll have some projection. Those are the two sources. So when you finish that off, you have, you go to, that's your revenue, all right? So say it's 56 million. Will it be that high? I don't know. Then you've got to clearly say, what are your fixed expenditures that you have to pay, or you go bankrupt, or you lose a facility or something, rent, utilities, mortgage payments, etc. So say that's, I'm making this up to 10 million. So then you really only have, say, 46 million to work with, not 56 million, which people don't always understand. Then you subtract from that something that's really has to be done. What is that? Is it open space that you have absolutely, you have to spend the money on? It produces zero revenue, you know, and that's where you'll start getting that list of how the 46 million from Milton, and that's what I meant, Lynn, by reorganizing, not, you were talking about the CBA.
Yes, right.
I mean, well, I'm saying that. Now,
Mhm.
you're asking the question of what Milton will be saying. Okay, I can't answer that because
Okay.
we didn't go to the meeting. This is my understanding. This is what I want. So you'll go to what, you know, what programs, what, and what do they cost, et cetera. And you can see that right now if you look at all the charts that are online based on each facility. That information is public. It always has been in the budget. My argument was the way it was being presented in, you know, like sports and fitness, people could not break it down. They want to know what the Columbia Gym, what the Supreme Court, what the roller, the ice rink, you know, name it, the tennis barn. They want to know what that is, who's going, how much membership. So it's been done now. It's a long chart on all of that. And that's available. So that was one of the things I've been pushing for. So you'll have X number of dollars left. That's what we're talking about, or Dick and I are talking about, and a few others. That's what we consider a better approach to the budget than we've had in the past, Paul, if that kind of answers. That's where the fight will be, not for 56 million. The fight will be more about 46 million, which is not a lot of money. Used to be an 86 million something budget.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you have the, yeah, okay, so, but anyway, that's what you'll see is what's really left in the pot. And that's reality. Whether people want to believe it's reality or not, you will see the data and you can argue whether it is or isn't.
So Ginny, I have another question. This is not on the budget. This is just something that that I noticed. I was wandering around over in the Meriwether district, which I do from time to time because nobody's there, so you can walk without worrying. And I got up towards Meriwether and saw that it looks to me like they're starting to put up for Symphony in the Woods. And so I was wondering if you have an update for us about that, what you can say and can't say. I understand with legal matters, but is that still in process? Has it been resolved? What's going on?
No, Andy and I met with Milton last week and said we have got to have an immediate meeting with the CA board. Now that, quite honestly, will have to be in a closed meeting. It still is in the courts and it's extremely complicated. The bottom line, you know, and you guys took a phenomenal position on this, and you were the first board to do this, and then other boards followed, is basically who controls your land, CA or somebody else that can just come on it. So we're well aware of what's happening. I am outraged, but I can't get into any more. I mean, to me, it's a very simple issue. Do not trespass. But I really can't get into.
Okay, I just wanted to know if it had been resolved or if it's still all
No,
in play.
the courts have not acted at this point, but there's more to it than that, because do you protect your land or don't you?
Mhm. Okay,
I
thank
mean,
you.
what would you want us, the CA, to do?
Mhm.
I
Ginny,
guess.
I was just going to offer words of support for keeping the meeting open because I do not think Milton's argument makes a lot of sense. Any any public organization that has employees, but by definition, that would mean that any budget discussion in any public organization subject to the Open Meetings Act that also happens to employ people would have to be closed. And I don't believe that's the intent. We in OMCA, we have our budget discussions out in the open. We have a much smaller staff, so people could make their conclusions about how that impacts the staff. But as long as we're not speaking about a specific employee's salary or whether a specific employee by name will be laid off or cut or increased, then we leave the meeting open. The only time we go to closed meeting for personnel issues is for appraisals or for specific discussions by name of salary changes or bonuses. For everything else, the budget is just the budget. Budgets in all kinds of organizations are planned every year in open meetings, and they have an impact on the labor, and that's just the way it is.
I totally agree, and I would have liked to have had that, because then the public would be hearing a lot sooner. But he says he still needs more time with, quote, senior staff to be working this out. So I just have I agree, totally agree. And that's
Mhm.
obviously, not only did I vote that way, but I expressed my point of view and called colleagues in advance of the meeting. So, but it
Yeah,
was
I
still a
just
close
I
vote, 5-4.
I just wanted to give the words of support because obviously that's not how we would conduct it here, and it's not how we conducted it here. We cut our budget substantially, and we know how that's affected employees, but we we had to do it. We had to do it publicly, and then
Right.
employees who are affected obviously are notified privately.
Yeah. Or quite frankly, they can guess. If you eliminated a department, they would have pretty well guessed that, or a
Right.
position.
Right.
So, but that's I agree. Obviously I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you for the support, though.
Sure. Of course. Anything else? Okay. Brigida, did you have
Well,
anything?
sorry, there was one
Oh,
other thing, and I really don't have much information on this now, but to follow up with Paul's comments at the beginning of the meeting, I am also concerned about, and I'm working on it now, so I don't have any more specifics, but I am really concerned about what position CA board might take on responding to the task force. Bill is on here someplace. In terms of the issue of quantity of affordable housing. This is strictly on affordable housing is the subject. Quantity. If they claim we need 30, 40,000 new units, I think the issue that I'm trying to understand is, where do you locate them? And I keep raising that because they keep saying in Howard County, and I keep saying, no, I don't think so. And we've talked about this because of the rural areas. So we have really only in the metropolitan district to locate them. And you really don't have that much property that hasn't already been developed in the metropolitan district. So that's, I think you have about 11% that hasn't been developed in the what's known as metropolitan district, or commonly known as the water and sewer district. So 89% about's been developed. So where are you going to put all that housing? And stop saying it's for Howard County, unless you really are going to look at how you can perhaps creatively do some attached or higher density housing in the rural areas. Or is that a good idea? But otherwise, just cut it out. Don't say it's all, it's Howard County. I can't seem to get that concept accepted. The other is how you integrate it. So that's location. The other is how you integrate it. We have not been very successful about that, in my opinion. Whatever we call it, but we have not really integrated affordable housing. We allow the developers in Maple Lawn, in River Hill, just name it, to give money to the county instead, or we never had a requirement in some places for even affordable housing. So what game are we playing with this MIHUs? So what are we really talking about? And this is where I think the Oakland Mills Village Board should be concerned, because I think part of it is looking at perhaps redevelopment of the village centers. I'm not, obviously, we all spent a lot of time on the reinventing or whatever we called it. We kept changing it every time to our village center. But, should it include a residential or not? Should the Dobbin, Snowden, and Gateway include residential or not? And what does this mean, especially in the older villages that already have a concentration of affordable housing? And what is the impact on the schools? At what point do you say we should be really looking at the disparity issue from many points of view, an equity issue, and perhaps have an approach where at some point where we have too much concentration and we should be looking elsewhere? Those are really interesting questions. The other thing is an overlay. Now, I'm not quite sure what an overlay means, other than it sounds a little bit like some of the current zoning that has been occurring in the county. And I won't go into some of the categories, but it gets kind of loosey-goosey, or like a bowl of jelly. What does it mean? How much protection does the community have when you have something zoned and you usually require change or mistake before you change that zoning? You have to prove there's a change in the neighborhood, or you have to prove there was a mistake in the original zoning. But then you make all these exceptions, and one they're looking at is what's called an overlay. So you've got X zoning, residential, 2 houses to an acre, or 12 townhouses to an acre, but you put this overlay thing on that would allow for a lot of other things. They haven't worked it out completely, but to me, that's, it's pretty wide open. And where would it be used? And if it's used in the older communities, or some of them, River Hill would be fine, right? Dorsey Search might be okay. But what does that mean? So those are some of the issues that I think Bill is going to be presenting to Oakland Mills at some point. And Bill, I think, will probably be talking more about this, but I believe there are hearings in November on the task force's proposal. The task force final proposal will be the housing plan for the general plan for Howard County. So it's pretty serious.
So Ginny, the CA board does plan to take some position?
Well, they're asking us for our opinion on some of these issues: location, overlay, impact on schools, something, quantity, integration, and just give some, opinions, notes, concerns, and then we'll talk about it more. Whether we take a position or not, I don't know at this point, because we're not sure where everybody is, and we have not seen the task force report. That will not be available, I think, until early November, but there's not much time there.
So because the thing I was going to say was, yeah, if you'll recall, during one of Andy's visits over the past couple of years, I asked him whether the CA board would ever, consider taking positions on, at that time, what I was talking about earlier, the capital investment or lack thereof in Columbia schools. And he said, no, that's not something he wants the board to get involved in. He feels it'll just end up, pitting communities and villages against each other, et cetera. And what I was going to say was, if this really starts going down the path where the board is going to take a position on, allocate, regardless of affordable, allocations of housing, distribution of housing, location of housing, changes in density of housing, I don't think the CA board can um, ignore the school issues any longer, because you have countywide APFO now. You need to have somewhere to put the students regardless of who they are. And if they continue not to invest in the Columbia schools, and if the CA board of director is taking a position on what Columbia will look like in the future from a housing perspective, you can't separate the two. That's what brings people to Howard County. So I'd really ask you, and I know you do this, but I would ask you to press even harder and remind the board that they can't separate these issues. They can't ignore the one while taking positions on the other, because they're so closely intertwined.
I agree. And there's a very, just the farm rate alone, it's lower on the west side. It's very high on the east side. You know that. You guys work on this all the time. Is that fair? So then if you put more, quote, affordable housing on the east side, excuse me, what are you doing to your schools? And then what are you doing to your neighborhood? And what are you doing to the children that attended, in terms of the whole equity, disparity issue, et cetera, that we all say is important, yet who created this problem? The housing department at the county level, and the county council and the executive, by allowing developers not to get away with not having at least a minimum of affordable housing in their projects. I mean,
Yeah.
just inexcusable, and that's been going on for 20 years at least.
Yeah, let me comment on that. Bill sent a spreadsheet of the monies that have been produced by this fee in lieu. And frankly, I was shocked at how little that money is. There is not a whole lot that you can do with it. And basically, from what I've been seeing, they've been subsidizing rents in certain areas, et cetera. I mean, you're not getting more affordable housing from it, from what I can see, and Bill can correct me if I'm wrong, but you're getting 1 million, a couple $1 million a year out of it. You can't do much with that. You're not going to build a complex of affordable housing. I mean, it's shocking to me at what's been going on.
Well, I would like to see perhaps more, and Bill's more of the expert on this, and some of you than I am, but in where you're having foreclosures, it would be nice to be, and there are programs at the county level, but to be spending more money on assisting somebody to buy that home, repair it, bring it up to standards, and own that home. And that's where it's happened. It seems to be working very well, and it achieves the integration idea too. Somebody, I don't, as I say, I don't know what the answer is. But, we do have the dilemma of the need for more affordable housing. And it's going to get worse with some of the industries we're bringing into the county, where a lot of people are minimum wage. So you're just going to add to that. And then you have the reduced amount of acreage that nobody seems to want to talk about, that it's not really the whole county. And then you have that most of the metropolitan's been already developed. So what do you do? I mean, how is this all going to work out that's fair to everyone? The families, the individuals that need the housing, the community, the schools. So Jonathan, I agree with you that the schools are a major reason people move or don't move to areas, whatever. And it's so important that kids get the best education possible. So So yes, yeah, I do see the connection. I've always seen the connection and we'll work on it.
Great. Thank you, Jenny. Brigitte, did you, or Amy, did you have anything to cover for Sandy in her report?
I did ask her, and she said that I could just let you all know that we've been having regular tours come into the building. So people are really looking to book for 2021 and 2022, and even for 2023. And they're really keeping their parties relatively small. They want me to be able to predict when when we're going to be able to have more people. And I keep on telling them that we follow what the guidelines are. And then we have to also look at our facility and follow the regulations as well. So we can hope where it's going to be, but I'm telling pretty much for 2021, I wouldn't expect it to go over 150, but some people are saying they're going to say it's going to be bigger. And if they have to cut their guest list, they will. So anyway, I went in last Saturday. So I've been mostly doing them Tuesdays and Thursdays, trying to get in some sort of regular schedule, but some people of course can't come in on the weekdays. So I offer a Saturday as needed. And that's pretty much it. We're trying to think of something to do for the holidays. But of course we all know what's happening with COVID currently. So we're not really sure. And I think that's really it from, unless Amy, she told you anything else, but
No.
that was really it on my end.
Okay, thank you. Lynn, do we have anything from architecture?
Just kind of a report on what's been going on with the rack, because we had thought that things would simmer down a little bit as the fall progressed, but we still are going great guns. So our last meeting, which was on the 15th, we had 9 applications, and out of the 9 applications, 2 of those were resubmits, and we approved 6 and tabled 2. And we had 1 application where we approved, it was a 2-part application, two different projects in the 1 app. And we approved one of the projects and tabled the second one. And so, so that was a pretty easy meeting in general. And on the 5th, so next Thursday, we're going from 9 applications to 17. So next week we have 17 of them. And that includes the 3 that were tabled from the 15th. And in general, I'd say that some of these are very kind of, I have a dead tree in my yard, and I want to know, can I take it down without having to replace it? So that's that's one set which is really easy to look at. Others are pretty complex projects that come with all sorts of construction drawings and materials boards and all of that sort of thing, which requires a little bit more digging into. But those are actually the fun ones to deal with, and it's nice to see the additions and the work being done around the community. So that's it.
Yeah, question.
Sorry, go ahead, Paul. I was muted.
Okay. Question, Lynn, since we don't require signatures anymore because of COVID of neighbors. I remember that Sandy was including the RAC notice as part of the general email. I haven't got one of those lately. Is she still doing that?
Yeah, she is, but that's a good reminder. Thank you, Paul, because I didn't see one for the last couple either. So I'll be sure that that's done, because we do. I mean, for the 15th, for example, there was one of the applications that we heard on the 15th was a resubmission, and we had several people who were residents, who were neighbors, who gave their opinion about it, when we were having the discussion. So there were 2 applications actually, one on this side of 175 and one on your side of 175, where we had people coming out and saying their viewpoint of what they thought about the proposal. So so word is getting out. I mean, I think that even though we don't require a signature, I think that people do talk to their neighbors about it. But you're right, Sandy has been sending those out, and of course we always did before. So I'll remind Sandy and see what the deal is. I might have just missed it
Yeah.
in an email.
I'm looking through my emails. There was definitely one for the October 1st rack. I haven't found one for the
Yeah.
October 15th yet.
Brigida.
Can I say something real quick? I know that I put the November 5th agenda and the Zoom link up on the Covenant page on the website, as well as the date of November 5th for the virtual RAC meeting. I do know she normally sends the link out as well, and I know it's going out in an email through Constant Contact. She told me to set it up for Monday, so that's scheduled as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's how it went out before. It was through Constant Contact. So that's great. Thanks, Brigida.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions for Lynn on architecture? Okay, we've made it to the bulletin board. Amy, did you have anything?
Nope.
Okay. Ginny? Ginny, you're muted.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Okay. Paul?
No, thank you.
Lynn?
Nothing else.
Bill?
Yes, just a little bit of mind therapy in such trying times. The hillside on the high school that's across the street from the ice rink used to be mowed, then trees were put in and it stopped being mowed and looked like a mess. Now, within the last week or so, that area did get a mowing at a higher level. So it looks like somebody who had an Albert Einstein hairstyle now has a flat top. And as I was driving by there this past week, I saw that and I said, well, that's a slight improvement. And when we can get back to normal sometime next year, hopefully, and we can deal with the school principal and that hillside and what can go there. And one idea that I had was landscaping and ground cover, so you don't have to mow, but you can still make the hillside look good. As I drove by there this past week, what showed up in my mind on that hillside was landscaping that spelled out the words Oakland Mills.
Ah,
So a little mind therapy, you can play with it.
Yeah.
In the future, it's a very nice greeting. It looks beautiful, at least it did in my mind. Now I know that it would take time and money, etc. It's just an idea, a little mind therapy. Thank you.
that's a great idea.
I like that.
We could do
You
it with
too.
millennials. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And that, unfortunately, that is one of the things that got pushed off by COVID. I'd met with the principal and the grounds chief last fall. I guess it would have been about a year ago. And the plan was to get together like, late winter, early spring to see what we might do, maybe get a couple of our local master gardeners to the hill and plan something out. And then, of course, COVID happened and the school buildings weren't in use, and the ground, for a while, you weren't even supposed to be on the school grounds. They eventually opened those back up over the summer. So fingers crossed we can do something with that in the not too distant future. But yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah, get it in the minutes so we have a little bookmark for it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That would be by the softball field, I think, where the opposing teams usually sit at the top of the hill there.
Yep. Even better. Maybe we could even find some kind of shrubbery that either flowers a nice shade of orange in the spring or turns a nice shade of orange in the fall, so it's in the right colors.
Orange and green, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Bill. I think I've said plenty tonight, so I'm not going to add any more, and we can adjourn.
Okay, good night, everybody.
All right. Good
Good.
night. Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
Well.